welcome to this meeting of the IJB. Hussein can't be here today, so I'm afraid he got me. But I will. So welcome to everyone, and I'll hand over to Emma Robertson to do the housekeeping.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning and welcome to the meeting of the Integration Joint Board. Today's meeting is a hybrid meeting and we have some people in the Health Village and others participating remotely. If anyone joining online would like to ask questions, please use the raise your hand function or indicate in the meeting chat and I will alert the Chair. The meeting is being recorded and published online after the meeting. Could all members leave their camera on but switch off their microphone when not speaking. In the event of a fire, you should follow the fire exit signs to my left there, and continue to stairwell 1, downstairs to fire exit A on the ground floor. The fire assembly point is located in the Frederick Street multi-storey car park at the right-hand side on the ground floor. I will now do a roll call and ask that members confirm their attendance when their name is called, so that this is clear in the recording and can also be recorded in a minute. Chair.
Present.
David Blackburn.
Present.
Mark Burrow.
Present.
Councillor Fairfield.
Present.
Councillor Gregg.
Present.
Richie Johnson.
Present.
Councillor Malik.
Present.
Jonathan Belford.
Present.
Jimmy Donaldson.
Present.
Penny Gibb.
Present.
Maggie Hepburn.
Present.
Caroline Howard.
Present.
Brenda Massey.
Present.
Kenneth McAlpine.
Present.
Jonah McFarlane. Do you see Shona online? Phil Mackey.
Present.
Anna Mitchell-Hill. Present. Graham Simpson.
Present.
And we have apologies from Hussein Patwa, Amanda Foster, Joy Miller and Stephen Fryer. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that. Yeah, so as I say, welcome. The first thing I want to say is a brief mention about the conference at Beach Ballroom the other week. Thanks to all our partners who came and manned stands. Thanks to those who presented. Thanks to, including Alison. Thanks to Sandy for doing his usual excellent microphone MC job. A special mention to Grace Milland for doing loads of work pulling the whole thing together. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I've been to several of these things now, and I always learn something new. Actually, I should have also said in the thanks to everybody who just turned up and attended. I thought it was a really good and useful session. The only downside for me was that when Sandy was doing his Vox Pop, it still looked as though quite a lot of people are not taking all the breaks they should be taking, so I encourage everybody to take all their breaks. You're at your best when you take a rest, is the slogan. But what was very pleasing was when Sandy asked folk who'd been thanked for doing something in the previous week. I think we had well over half the people there had been said thanks to, so well, that was really good. I talked about taking a break, so we'll do our usual thing of taking a break after 90 minutes, so we're not debating issues when we're tired and waiting for the next comfort break. Yeah, that's about it. We've got the risk appetite statement up front in the papers, as we've been doing now for several months. And the last thing for me to say is that I'm proposing that we take items 6.1 and 6.2 before 5.1 and 5.2. That's because David Blackburn has to leave at 12, and I know David was particularly keen to participate in those two items, because David can't be in two places or potentially three places at once. So as I say, David will leave at 12. So that brings us on to item 2.1.
Vice Chair, point of order 26. I have been advised you have accepted only one of my amendment for discussion. I accept I missed the deadline, but their lateness has no impact on this committee, giving the substantial points related to audit's report, the fact within the report. And the worry as to where we are going to get a doctor from to ensure walking in GP surgeries. No, I was shocked when you have given me reason just now that because the other amendment is political, I think this committee is non-political, and you have taken only easy option. You accepted my second amendment, which is Richard Angels, which is straightforward. I will be praising the work. However, I need a clarification on what base you took one of my amendment and refused second one. I don't like to ask this of your convener, but I am forced to on this occasion. Why won't you allow debate on the important chief officer report? Why is that? You want us to be nodding donkey all the saying yes, all fine, all good. But where is accountability? Where is about scrutiny? And if you are going to deal the business like this way, just keep praising each other, we will never get all of our issues sorted. And that's why IGB is in a mess, and that's why NHS Grampian is in a mess. Can you please tell me the reason if you have taken my one amendment and refused to take second one? But I do not accept this answer that because of politics, this committee is non-political. Thank you.
Well, I'm trying to keep politics out of it, is the point. I'd also point out that the chair's decision on matters of order, competency and relevancy is final. So that's what we're going to do. In terms of the things that you're going to raise in your amendment, which I haven't accepted because it was late, because we have different rules here at the IJB than we do in the council, any of the points that you wanted to make in your amendment, you're perfectly entitled to make. It's not a question of having to have questions and then only debate if there's an amendment. You're perfectly entitled to make all those points.
Totally disagree. If you did not accept my amendment because it was late, yes, I have given reason why it was late. I was actually earlier on the course of a meeting, I was emailing to officer in relation to my soft governance meeting. I have to send 10 emails before we get agreement. But you have given reason that because of late, so why did you accept one amendment? You should not accept both then.
I was feeling generous on the second one.
Well,
okay, so you're entitled to record your dissent, but that's what we're going to do. Right, item 2.1. Are there any declarations of interest or transparency statements? Nope. Okie doke. Item 3.1, which is determination of exempt business. Can we agree to take 7.1, the annual procurement work plan, as an exempt paper? Agreed. Thank you. Which now brings us on to 4.1, which is the video, which today is on the on carers. We've got 2 papers on the carers strategy, so we thought a video on carers would be quite appropriate. So hand over to Ros. Again, fingers crossed that the tech works again.
The Aberdeen City Carers Strategy for 2026 to 2030. A city for all carers. David and Angela have been married for many years. Early in their retiral, David noticed that something wasn't quite right. After an assessment, it was revealed that Angela was living with early onset dementia. The challenges of being an unpaid carer.
Well, there have been a few things that happened. I mean, one thing that was very difficult was actually Angela became very ill and ended up in intensive care in hospital. And, you know, once she'd kind of come out of intensive care, and the doctors were like wanting to know more about her medical history, and she obviously couldn't tell them. And so I ended up being quite an important kind of link between Angela and the medical staff, which is not something I really thought about until it happened. That if, you know, someone with is in hospital, they really need support, and having somebody they know with them is really quite important. Angela will get up in the night and start taking all the stuff out of the bathroom, and I'll be like, why are you doing this? Why are you taking everything out of the bathroom? And she'll be saying, well, we need it for when we go home. So she obviously doesn't realise she's in her own home now. She gets confused about where she is and thinks she's in the wrong place. When she's having a shower, I really have to get involved with making sure that she's washing properly and all of that, which is kind of not what it kind of affects your relationship. You're a carer rather than a partner. There's a big loss. And also it can be quite lonely, because although you're with somebody, they're not giving you a lot back. Angela doesn't really ask me anything about what I'm doing or what I think about things. It can be quite isolating, being a full-time carer. So I'm, always keen to get out and about, and I think it's good for Angela as well.
Support is important for David.
One of the things we really enjoy is the Living Well Cafe. And it's just nice because you see the same faces if you go on a regular basis, and you can catch up with people. Quarries have set up a men's group for carers, and it's good to get together with those guys and just share what's been going on, and just talking about stuff with other people who are in a similar position is very helpful. I'm able to get away for a longer period, for a week or so, because it's now possible to get respite care organised. So I know she's being well looked after, and I can relax. I don't think I'd be able to keep going if I didn't have, periodically, every 3 or 6 months, have a proper chunk of time out.
Many thanks to the Shmoo Community Filming Group and to Ian for their skill and expertise, and for giving up their time to create this clip. And particular thanks to JW for the love and tireless dedication he has given to his wife, both as her husband and as her carer over the past 10 years.
Great, I think it's really important that we do hear from people with lived experience when we're debating issues. That clip actually is one of a series, so there are others that are available. If anybody's got any questions on it, we've got Stuart and Grace here who could probably handle them. Anybody got any questions, comments? No? Okay, well, I should have said Quarries was one of the partners who had a stand last week, so well done to them. Okay, that brings us on to 4.2, which is the minute of the meeting of the 2nd of December. So I'll just, this is just to agree, I'll just whiz through page by page. Oh, sorry, something. Nope. Okay, page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14, and page 15. So happy to agree with that as a correct record?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. That then takes us on to 4.3, which is the minutes of the last RAPC meeting. I don't know whether Martin wants to make any comments on that. It looked pretty straightforward to me.
All in order, I think, all fine.
Okay, happy to agree?
Yep.
Okay. Actually, I should have said happy to note it, but anyway. Similarly, we've got 4.4, which is the minute of the Clinical Care Governance Committee, which is on the 16th of December, and I think it was Lee Fairfield's first meeting as in the chair for that one. I don't know whether she wants to say anything.
No, all is in order, Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much. So are we happy to note that?
Noted.
Thank you very much. That takes us to 4.5, which is the business planner. So any questions on the business planner, which I'll pass to Fiona?
Yeah, just a request to defer at line 13, so the Grampian vaccination immunisation annual report was due, but we've been requested to defer to the IGB on the 12th of May. As the chair of the Population Health Committee for NHS Grampian has requested that the annual report goes through their governance first, and then it'll come out to all the IGBs across Grampian, please.
That sounds fine to me. Any other questions, comments? Nope. Talking of vaccinations, I had my shingles jab last week. The guys were doing a great job at the centre in Bonaccord. That then takes us to 4.6, which is the Insights Planner. Any questions on this one? Not seeing anything?
All good.
All good? Okie doke. Happy to note it?
Noted.
Yep, grand. Chief Officer's Report, 4.7.
Yeah, there's a lot of details in there. This time, John, more than normal, so really happy just to open up for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Martin?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. So the first one is on 4.4, the public bodies legislation. When that's enacted, just to get a sense of what the impact of that could be on the IGB. There's mention there of potentially additional members and so forth. So what are the impacts? What's going to happen there?
It'll mean that those with lived experience will have voting rights, which isn't the case at the moment. I think there is some detail still to be worked out. There's a working party being set up to try and give some guidance. I think in one of our meetings, I can't remember which one it was, the thinking was that for those who haven't been voting members before, we ought to be providing some support and training.
So it's not about expanding membership?
At this point, it doesn't seem to be about expanding membership, it seems to be about just giving people voting rights.
Okay, that's great. And then I had a question on the Coming Home Action Plan, which is 4.5. I mean, there are quite considerable implications of this one. I think it's a very good link up with the Stonywood Complex Care Facility, very important focus that we've had. And there's mention of, is this where we've got a dynamic support register? So just to get a sense of how do individuals get onto the register? I mean, will it be quite a wide-ranging set of criteria to get onto the register? Because I think that it will be very, very helpful for those who are at risk to have their presence, their needs monitored. And the other question related to that is the analysis of the data gathered through the register. What are the expectations of the information that's being gathered? That's presumably for performance monitoring, but I think there was mention that it's discretionary whether you're on the register or not. So is it going to be comprehensive? Is it going to be a good quality, comprehensive process?
I'll let Kevin.
Thanks.
I apologise for the jargon of dynamic support register. It's basically a database of clients and people who we support that have complex needs and need more robust care packages. So there is criteria. So if you're in that client group, you'll be on the register. And it's a planning tool, but it's also so that there's an awareness for the service that we need to look at future placements for these folk. Not all of the people are out of area. Some people are folk that are living already in Aberdeen, but we know they'll need a greater service provision going forward. So it's a planning tool. It's so that we don't miss people. It's a national requirement. So it is quite robust. We've been at it now for a couple of years, and it's reviewed monthly. So it's a proactive tool. So it's for planning future service provision. That's informed the market position statement. It informed the clients that we accommodated successfully into the Stonywood project, which has really been the focus of our Coming Home efforts in the last 12 months. So hopefully that gives a bit of reassurance.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you. It's much appreciated. Just to come to the point where I think it's discretionary whether you have to give consent to be included in the database. So will the database therefore reflect consistently all of the various needs?
We would work closely with the families and guardians to encourage. We're not keeping any information that's very sensitive to the individual. It's more about their needs, their future needs. So I don't think we've had anybody saying they don't want to be included in the register for obvious reasons, because it ensures they get to get the proper care package going forward.
Absolutely, it is a helpful transparent system. And if I might have a final third question, it's on GP walk-in centres update. Is it possible to have an update on the update at all?
Yep, so Emma's going to come up and she'll give you a wee update, Martin. Thank you.
So the update on GP walk-in centres is Friday. Scottish Government did get in contact with us to confirm that we have been successful with the bid. So we are meeting today to look at what that may look like and plan that.
Okay. So there will be more details. Is there a sense of a timescale? I think that this is a very desirable, welcome initiative. It's a good step forward. I think we would want to know the details of what, how it's going to be rolled out and how people will have access to it and so forth. Will all of that later?
Yes, and I can provide details at a later date if that's what the IJB board would like.
Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Actually, I think some sort of further detail at a later date would be helpful. I'm pretty sure everybody's really interested to know. So
I can arrange that.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
I've got Mark Burrell's hand first, and then Lee Fairfield.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Fiona, for the detailed report. There's been a lot of input and content there today. Just about the new primary care board, I think similar to Martin's question, I'd like to know more detail on that. I think that's where that sits in a governance structure, where that sits between IJBs and NHSG. So yeah, I think I'm going to put my hand up and say first I've heard of it. I'm going to put it that way. Okay, maybe I've been hiding, but usually I get around most things. So it's just a quick note. I think I'd like an update on that. Even if we can't provide it today, I think for future going forward, if we need something.
Emma will be able to give you some.
Thank you.
Yeah, so to update, at the moment the board is in its infancy, so there's no updates in terms of it's still meeting with sector leads in terms of what that might look like. So again, I will provide an update inclusive of GP walk-ins at the same time.
Thank you.
Okay. And I've got Lee followed by Richie on the list.
Sorry, I just wanted to take the opportunity to comment talking about the GP walk-in centres. Just say obviously it's a positive initiative. Looking forward to it coming. I'm reassured that obviously we've been approved by it. I wanted to hope that you were positive about it and not seeing it as too much of a challenge given the climate and NHS crisis just now. And if you're communication is good, or if not, as the case may be, yeah.
So communication is good,
yeah,
and we ensure that the phase test of change doesn't debalance our current provision of GP services.
I think just to come in there as well, it's a Grampian-wide bid, so Emma has worked with Aberdeenshire and our Murray colleagues on the bid that's gone forward. So a lot of work's gone into the bid and engaging obviously with our GP leads, as Emma said, just to make sure that we are doing that joined up system. And everybody was comfortable before we put the bid in. But as Emma says, now the hard work, now that we know we've got that, the hard work of, so how does this actually become a reality? And it is quite tight time scales.
Absolutely.
That we're working on. But the team, as Emma said, are meeting today now that we've got the agreement for the money.
That's great. Thank you, Fiona. That's really reassuring. And yeah, I really wish yourself good luck as that moving forward and look forward to an update. Because I know it will be challenging, but hopefully it'll be worth it. So thank you so much.
Okay, I've got Richie and then followed by Councillor Malik.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And just in terms of the primary care boards, likewise, I've got three questions I was going to ask a little bit more around. And particularly, I guess, is how will it affect us as an IGB? I guess I'm interested in just in terms of kind of governance or decisions or values. So I'm happy to get that back in due course, as you say. One of the other ones was around the Bon Accord care transfer. Again, see that's there's some reference to that in the paper. And just a little bit more about that would be helpful to understand, I guess, again from an IGB perspective, any implications for us particularly, are there opportunities or risks, just a little bit more about that. And I've got one final one, but I'll maybe just pause to allow that second one to get covered, if that's okay.
Yeah, so I'll come in on Bon Accord Care. So absolutely, the move of Bon Accord Care was agreed in the Council on the 10th of December is to do that, avoiding that duplication of governance, which I think will be quite good. So we will take it in, it will go under our clinical care governance oversight, and then obviously we'll have RAPC for our performance and everything else. So that will streamline that. It's absolutely about the financial sustainability of Bon Accord Care. So the service will come in, we will 2p into ACC, so Aberdeen City Council, and then we will have the oversight through Ian, our Chief Social Work Officer for Adult Services. He will have the oversight of the delivery of the model, the operational side of the service. So we are taking all the staff will be coming over through the 2p process, so the budget will just shift back under us. And all the staff that will come will have the opportunity to 2p back into us. So the risks, I think, are low. I think the opportunity for transformation, and that is great. I think there's real opportunities for us to be in the same organisation, and rather than being commissioned, for us just to streamline and look to that transforming services as we move forward to meet within the financial envelope that we've got.
Yeah, great. No, thanks. And again, I guess getting the transfer through in marriage will be first priority, and then I guess that opportunities can be further explored further down the line. So that's good, thank you. A final question, and again, I don't think there's much more you can say today, is around the drugs and alcohol strategy. I was presuming that will come back here in due course when that's a bit further developed, again, just in terms of implications for us as an IGB.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one, John, as well. So yeah, the strategy is currently just in development. And it's obviously to succeed the national mission that's been in place since 2021. So, excuse me. So Simon Rayner, our lead for drugs and alcohol services in Aberdeen, has been around some of the planning of the strategy. So that's really helpful. And I think the underlying vision of the strategy is absolutely to continue that prevention of harm, to improve lives and reduce deaths, and they're going to have 6 priority areas that we're working through. So we're just waiting for the final date when it'll be published, but absolutely we will make sure that we identify any gaps, any opportunities for us to make sure that we're continuing to deliver the services in Aberdeen City to meet the standards.
Okay, thanks. Mark?
Thank you very much, Vice Convener. Positive move, working surgeries. I'm concerned. Working GP surgeries and how they will be stopped. Where are these doctors coming from?
So would you like me to take that?
Yeah, please.
So I will provide a full update when we update you around the walk-in centres, around the staffing model. It will be a blend of an MDT team, and the staffing model will take cognizance of the concerns that you raise.
Do you agree with me that the Royal College of General Practitioners in Scotland has confirmed what we are all thinking where will be workforce could come from, particularly as in Scotland? GP workforce is smaller than it was 10 years ago. So where you will get GP?
So we can address all of that in the report that we will be bringing. There's a difference between general practice and GP, and walk-ins are an MDT team, not just GP.
Okay, thank you. I move on. I think I'll leave this topic. So, as the report suggests, a persistent high numbers of delayed discharges. This is both worrying from patient's point of view and worrying from our point of view, because bed blocking in 2024-2025 for Scotland has resulted in 720,119 unnecessary delays in hospital, costing an estimated £440 million. If we could get this right, our budget would be significantly improved. How can we get this right?
So the report you're referring to is the Audit Scotland, so that's the national report. In Aberdeen City, we actually performed very well with our delayed discharges. I think today in ERI we have 8 delayed discharges in ERI today. So overall we have higher number, it's about 38. And that's mainly because of the really complex needs of people. So it's trying to get them in a home that's right for them and right for the home. So actually Aberdeen City, we still perform very well with our delayed discharges, and we have quite low numbers compared to other people in the country.
Thank you very much for clarity. So where we stand in national average?
So we're about in the top third still of the national average for delayed discharges. We're significantly below the Scottish average of delayed discharges.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more? No. Okay. Any more questions, comments?
David's got his hand up.
Oh, David, sorry.
You're on mute, David, sorry.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to remind the team regarding staffing of the walk-in centres. As head of the School of Medicine, Medical Sciences and Nutrition here, we do have a lot of medical students. If we can provide any support, we would be very interested in having a conversation with the relevant people. If that would be useful, both mutually beneficial perhaps for providing workforce and also for providing student experience. Thank you.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good idea to me.
Yeah, thanks for the kind offer, David, and MIC are scribbling. And we'll also make sure it links in with the GP Teaching Hub, because Em and I are both around that conversations already. So.
Okay, that was in my mind, Fiona. So anyway, if you're talking to the right people, then you can already, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any more? Not seeing any more hands. In which case, are we happy to note the report? Yeah, thanks, great. That brings us to 6.1, which is the Q3 finance performance and indicative results for the year end, and a wee bit of a look ahead to next year. So, Bernie, a couple of seconds just to get into place.
Let me catch my breath first.
Yes.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I think before the barrage of questions come in, if there are any, I would just like to request everybody to just give me a bit of time explaining about section 3 of the report, which pertains to the strategic plan context. So what I have put in here is a table basically summarizing the items that have been submitted for public consultation back in the middle of November, which ran through to the middle of December. So this total value is £8.54 million. However, following the conclusion of the public consultation, there has been a collation of data basically carried out by our very amiable Miss Alison MacLeod. And she has basically advised that based on this public consultation, 2 of the items, particularly item C, which pertains to the eligibility criteria, and item D, which pertains to the support for unpaid carers, have been, I don't know what's a better word for it, removed from the list, because we will not consider this in our savings targets. Considering, of course, the situation, we of course respect the feedback from the public. We've just had a video presentation regarding our carers, so I think it is really vital that we still continue with our support for this care. So after removing these 2 items, this public consultation result has been reduced from 8.54 million to 6.9 million savings proposal. This forms part of a bigger exercise pertaining to what would be the savings targets in FY 26-27. Now, the other thing I would like to emphasize is, why are we presenting the savings targets for FY 26-27 when we're still in FY 25-26? as an entity, we are a going concern. So we have to look forward. It's not just the here and now, it's also to what will be. So it is important that we pay attention to the efforts being made by Fiona's team as regards the fact that, hey, yeah, we are going to deliver on the service, but we also identify with the fact that we are being pushed tightly as regards our funding. It's not just to balance the budget, but ultimately we have to build back our reserves to meet whatever contingencies we will have in the future. So by that, if there are no questions regarding the strategic plan context, I welcome the barrage of questions if there are any.
Mark?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the update. Going to the strategic one specifically, I think that it's useful to get that look ahead. I think that's pretty important. If you're not going to go with those C and D options, and I can understand why that would be with regards to your impact assessment, your public consultation, are you taking it from anywhere else, the 1.5? Because we're going to have to try and think where that's coming from. Because if you're going to build reserves and you're not taking the 1.5, and that's agreed and that's fine. Are we looking elsewhere for that? And I'll come back to my secondary question after that. Thanks.
Do you want me to?
Chair, I would just say that obviously this is a constant work in progress in many respects. So looking at those options and looking, I suppose, at the 25-26 financial position, what you're seeing is hopefully one that's moving very much in the right direction. So there's an underlying element of actually are we progressing to the point where actually we can take some of the benefits through into the next financial model. That's something we're looking at carefully just now, and obviously we'll come back to that in the coming weeks, just in terms of what the 26-27 model looks like. But no, we don't take the foot off the gas. We're looking at other options and so on, and where those impact. But also the experience that we've got of working through this year's savings, I suppose, is what I'm saying in terms of what that means for 26-27, and any other opportunities that actually arise that allow us to consider where we and how we could balance the budget. Because you're absolutely right. Clearly, there's an obligation on us to balance those two sides, income and expenditure. Therefore, we'll continue to look at that. But we'll set out in coming reports, so the budget report and medium-term financial framework on the 17th of March will have effectively the filling of that gap and the understanding of those elements, and we'll work through that, I think, through an insights section that's due in the middle of this month as well.
Okay, do you have another question, Mark?
I do, but I'm happy to defer if anybody wants to go on the strategy ones for 26-27. If not, I'll come back. Yeah. The other comment then is looking at our savings, and it does look like that there's an improving picture. There's no doubt of that. But I suppose one of the things, and it'll be no surprise to anybody else in the room that knows me well, is the prescribing budget and it elevating yet again. And I wonder whether we really need to refocus on that. There's a lot of work that was done around that, and I think we just need to go back to that. It seems to come out again as a little bit of an issue as such.
Caroline, do you want to come in?
Yeah, there was a Grampian meeting where it's very much all around the table with that. It's definitely one of our main focuses. A lot of initiatives going on.
Just as long as we stay excited on that, I think it's really important. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, just add that we're actually receiving quite a lot of information at the moment in relation to the finances of that for next year. And clearly we're looking at 25-26, but as that comes to an end, then the importance of that for next year is will not go on unnoticed, and we'll take the latest information we can in terms of the modelling for that into 26-27.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Martin next, and then Richie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to go back to that earlier question about the strategic plan context, I think it's the same question, but from a slightly different angle. So if C and D are being excluded from consultation, but I mean we have the requirement to balance our budget. So, but C and D could still be considered within the budget process if we chose to. I presume. I mean, it's not off the table entirely. Raising the eligibility criteria or reducing support. We could still do that, I presume, if we had to.
Chair, ultimately, nothing ends up coming off the table at all. I think the best advice and the information that Mr. Lawrence shared with you today is very much the current thinking on the basis of the information. But and I think that's about reassurance. But other elements, dare I say, of our savings are also flexible, dare I say, variable. And both positively and negatively, I suppose. But I suppose that's all about the effort and I suppose the direction that's then taken and from the IJB itself. So where do we want to see those savings being delivered? What is it that we think the right blend, dare I say, of savings is, and making sure that that's then the focus for our actions during the course of the next financial year. But as with everything, until it's off the table, it's not off the table.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that clarity. I mean, the Q3 report is very positive. I think the challenges are being effectively addressed. Could I highlight the area of commissioned services? I mean, that's quite a sizable area of budget. There are ongoing extra cost pressures there due to our ageing population, due to the rise in long-term health conditions and so forth, increasing care costs, the real living wage, and so forth. So that's going to be quite a tough challenge to deal with. So what kind of confidence do you have that we'll be able to continue to focus there, review, find savings while still coping within that environment of health and social care needs which are rising?
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Greg. In regards to commissioned services, this basically pertain to contractual agreements and obligations that the IJB has towards our esteemed providers. Okay, so we have a very extensive exercise going on at the moment. I believe this started way beginning of the year, even before, like late last year. And the objective of this exercise is to review all existing contracts with our providers and basically identify areas where we can save, but also be mindful of the fact that these providers, they run a business as well themselves. They also face the same sort of cost pressures that we do in terms of like staff costs, premise costs, utilities costs. So in order to save in that area, we cannot really sort of like, hey, touch that bit of the equation. What we therefore need to really identify is what care do we really need these providers to provide us. And in so doing, if we can save around that area, then that's what we're working on. In the strategic context table, what we presented here is what had been presented or shared or how would you call this, where we requested the public to sort of like give us a feedback on. Behind the scenes, we have a different list. I'm sorry I've not included it here, but that's a list of savings proposals that we ourselves can decide on right there and then. And that includes studying the staff cost, what else? Contracts review with providers. That's something we don't consult with the public with. That involves discussions one-on-one with the providers themselves, being carried out by Mr. Stephenson and his team, along with Ms. Humphrey. So in terms of the commission services, it's important, number one, the business that they run, what care packages do we really require that these providers provide us, is a very tricky situation that we have to learn to balance. So, but the objective is really provide the best possible speedy care, meeting the funding that we've been given. So, yeah.
It's a difficult one, isn't
It is a difficult, it's a circular economy that we exist in.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, obviously the focus continues to be to maintain, sustain as far as possible quality care. So there'll be important clinical judgments to be made when reviewing the contracts. But I mean, it must often appear like an impossible task with the economic pressures, national insurance contributions. Who knows what the next additional challenge will be on the providers, on the companies who are providing the services. So yeah, this is obviously a very important area of work. So thank you for that.
I think one of the things we're keen to do is make sure we're getting best value, Martin, and absolutely you're correct about the quality of our services. And that's why Caroline, Julie, Ian and Phil of our clinical team are very important, that they are around all of the decisions we're making and that we do get their thoughts and input into any decisions we make.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think Bernie's point about the balance whereby you're not squeezing providers so that they go out of business is really important. Richie.
Thanks, John. A couple of points on the Q3 figures. Just to say, understandably, we've been really careful to scrutinise, challenge the budget monitoring to date. And the improving position is great to see. And as John says, it's really important we don't take the foot off the gas this last couple of months. But equally, it would be wrong not to acknowledge, I think, the work of the teams to get us to this point compared to where we were earlier in the year. So it's a thumbs up, and please keep going. I guess as part of that. A couple of queries on the Q3, and I appreciate this is Q3. We're now in the start of month 11, so I appreciate it's still a live monitoring process. But are we still confident that we're going to get the kind of order of underspend or savings at the year end that's set out here? And the second question is related to how we treat the underspend. If we do come in, let's say $1 million under, then how is that £1 million treated? Does that go into next year collectively? Is that a conversation about whether that goes back to City and NHS? So just to understand what the process around treating that would be. But one final question after that, if that's okay.
I'll maybe ask Bernie to talk about just the confidence as to where we are, and then I'll come back and answer the question about what we do with it.
Okay, so I'll dissect your questions bit by bit. All right. As regards the confidence on what it's going to be like towards the end of the year, if it's just talking about what I would wish, then of course I would like this underspend to remain stable, because at the end of the day, like what I said, we're trying to build back the reserves that we've lost last year, and it's not possible if we just balance the budget. Okay. We are mindful of the fact that this underspend is brought about by the fact that both the partners, the council and the NHS, has contributed to this via their additional funding. If we remove that additional funding of 10.9 million, we will be in an opposite status where we will have an overspend. Okay, so there will be discussion towards the end of the year as regards what do we really do about this underspend, considering the fact that the partners themselves are facing their own challenges. We all know about the Grampians, NHS Grampians situation. They are perpetually following up with Fiona as regards what financial recovery proposal they are going to put into the table that will contribute to the NHS meeting their balance the budget objective. In reference to the confidence as regards the underspend, taking note of the fact that this underspend resulted from the fact there is additional contribution, we are just mindful of the fact that we will continuously monitor the existing cost pressures. Most cost pressures, if you analyze historical performance, like last year and the year before and the year before that, the cost pressures, oddly enough, always comes out in Q3. So in Q4, it's like, so we've got all the whammy that we got in Q3. So hopefully there's nothing in Q4. It's always Q3. If you analyze it, the last year and the year before, I was like, whoa, is this odd? It's just happening every time in Q3.
I think, Chair, Q4 has proved a little challenging the last couple of years, just in terms of that. But yeah, that undoubtedly is a pattern that is followed. I'm confident of where we are, and I think just to add to what Bernie was saying in terms of just what might happen. So let's assume we would deliver, and the team deliver an outturn under. I think there'll be strong emphasis from NHS Grampian that the additional funding, and their share of the additional funding, will be required back or not given at the year end. So that's a conversation that undoubtedly myself and Alex Stephen will be having, just in terms of what that looks like. And I understand that, but that, as Bernie said, is a shared position in terms of the additionalities. So, and I do hope that's where we get to. But the confidence is high, having got through 9 months of transacted data. The commitments for the final 3 months, as Bernie says, are very much under the watchful eye of a number of people and all budget holders at this time.
Thank you both. But just my final question was a very different kind of question. It's on page 156. You've got the weekly care costs by client group. I guess this question is that just for information, or how do the team make use of that kind of data in terms of influencing service change or service transformation, or how to manage that kind of data? It's a curious question.
Okay, so just to advise everybody, this is something that is taken from Microsoft Dynamics 365 as a database input tool by our care workers. This is a weekly figure, so if you actually add this all up, that's 116 million pounds. Now, we continuously advise our team of care workers, healthcare workers, to update the data that's in the system, because this pertains to individuals with their care package and the care package cost. If we don't update this regularly, then we'll be stuck with information that might be inaccurate. This is work in progress, Richie. So this is just to give you a snippet of an idea, what data are we having in our database. But it is highly vital for the team to update this on a regular basis, so we can then provide all of you relevant, vital, real-time information as regards what our actual status is, because this will be, going forward, the basis of our budgeting and strategic planning in the future. Dynamics 365 and Controc. Controc is the financial assessment tool. The work behind it is still actively ongoing. It is still tremendous work in progress. I've raised this topic here for everyone's awareness, so that if in case I need certain escalation points as regards to progress this, then at least everyone is well aware of what we are currently doing. So if you look at these figures right now, this is a weekly cost. If you add them all up, it's 116 million. The funding from the council alone is 142 million. But this is just on the side of social care. What about healthcare? This is where I just invite everyone to focus and pay attention to the sort of like pressures that we face day on day, regularly. But we need vital updated data to assist Fiona and her team to make the relevant decision. What costs can we save on? What costs can we cut? Where can we channel our resources? I hope I answered your question, Richie.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's good data, it's good information, and I guess it's the kind of so what question that follows on from it. How do you use that data to inform I guess, the future planning of the services. That's the bit I was trying to get into a bit more.
Okay, so this is something actually being currently used by the finance team of the council when they look at their figures taken from another system, which is the finance system. What is the data that backs up the finance data that we give you? Is it valid? Is it verifiable? Yeah, so that's what we're trying to arrive at here. In future, when we do carry out our budget and strategic planning process, we will go back to data like this to assess, for learning disabilities, for example, we've spent this much money. This is what our clients require. Do we really need this much money going forward? Or are we having reduced client base? Or are we having an increased client base? We will have some graphs as regards the movements of the data, so we can then assess, okay, this is additional cost pressure that we will really need to consider. So it's really vital in the planning and budgeting process. It's something we use on a regular basis when we do our reporting, and obviously for future budgeting, yeah, this is absolutely vital, Richie. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I think sorry.
I was just going to come in a little bit there, and I think Ian's in the room, and I don't know if Ian wants to add any more, but I guess for me it is about the staff as well, understanding, Richie, so that we have a pot of money and actually the care. But Ian, I don't know if you want to say anything extra about that and the benefits the staff are going to have when the system, or when the system's there. Well, it's there. We've been working on it a lot for the last year. Thanks, Ian.
Trying to we are making improvements in terms of the information that frontline practitioners can have access to, seniors can have access, so all parts of our system. And I think more information that we provide practitioners, seniors, service managers with more understanding of how they spend the money and how that then relates to individuals' needs and outcomes and these sorts of things. It also drives how we think about commissioning, how we work with partners in terms of our stakeholders, but in particular the different providers that we work with as well. So it will provide a far greater understanding of how we spend the money and how we also meet needs as well.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say, wants to come back in there.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's sort of touching on a little bit on what Richie had brought up. You know, we've got an actual Q3, we're at 500,000 basically, and we're moving to in the forecast of 1.1 million at Q4. There seems to be a lot of work to be done in Q4 to get to that kind of outturn, if I'm reading that correctly. Is there details around that we will be able to pick that out?
My experience, sorry Chairman, my experience would be that the Q4 clearly expenditure is not landing perfectly in terms of quarter by quarter, in terms of the profile of that, and I think that's what we've spoken about in terms of where will year end actually land. So looking at the profile, clearly we're paying some providers in advance, and therefore we're in a position where that spend has already gone through. I would just take one for care, for example. By the time we get to now, effectively we've already paid for them up to the end of March. So in terms of the Q3 position, unless you're doing the full set of accruals and so on, then in some respects you get slightly different.
Okay, but you can see where I'm coming from. It half a million in Q3 and double that by Q4. So it's just to get the details around that. And one other bit, and it's coming back to what Bernie said, when we talk about underspend, and I understand where that comes from, but it is set against the partners giving additional contributions at the beginning. So how you report that, I brought this up at board with regards to the other two IJBs that Aberdeenshire reports similarly, but Murray do not report in that aspect, and often that looks worse for them in certain respects. So it's just, I asked Alex about this as well, about consistency across the three IJBs, that the reporting is seemed to be consistent, so we can get an accurate picture. I think it was at FRB we discussed that, wasn't it? So I think that's really important that we look at that. Nobody's going to shy away that we're welcoming the savings or underspend, depending on what your terminology may or may not be at that point. Thank you.
Chair, I would just add that I get that, and of course I read the NHS Grampian position and the way in which they present, I suppose, the IJB's position, financial position, their outturn forecasts and so on. And it does come across as being actually we're actually going to support to a greater extent. But the fact is, the IJB, when I'm sitting around this table, the IJB set a balanced budget based on those contributions being made. Aberdeen City Council funded that £4.2 million share up front and has provided the cash. And that's why there's that, in response to Richie's comment about what happens at the year end. Yes, there's an anomaly there because of the way in which, I suppose, the reporting, but also the impact and the way in which both organisations then deal with that impact of, dare I say, spending that was beyond last year.
Yeah.
But what I suppose I'm keen to make sure is that what we've said as an IJB is the budget is £460 odd million. Are we measuring ourselves against that? And in that measurement, that includes that extra funding. I'll make no excuses for that in terms of just saying that was a balanced budget. This is our underspend, but I do anticipate and see the reporting that goes through NHS Grampian and the differences between Aberdeenshire, Murray and ourselves in the way in which both councils and NHSG presented their additional funding for this particular financial year. I think that potentially shifts as we move into next year, and that ongoing conversation needs to continue in terms of how we get that consistency so that everybody actually realises and recognises what's actually happening.
Thank you.
Okay. I've then got David wanting to come in.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of comments really and a question. One is to say that I really like the format of the report. Thank you, Bernie. And I like that strategic forward look into 26-27. My question is, can we look further forward than 26-27? And I know it gets precarious, but is it realistic to consider looking further ahead? And I'll come back with another comment then. Thank you.
Chair, I would just say, if Bernie wants to add, I'm more than happy. I'd just say that in respect of the medium-term financial forecast, while that was presented back in July, we kind of have that bit further, a number of extra years that takes out to 5 years. It's definitely that's something we're looking at right now in terms of the forecasting. As Bernie was saying, we're using the data that we can in order to project forward, and we will present a new version of that, if you like, in terms of that as part of the budget process in the next month.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Fine.
Okay, thank you. So then I wanted to add that I was very assured by that conversation in response to Richie's question between Bernie and Richie on the evidence-based decision-making that is increasingly coming into the finance team. As a scientist, I'm really assured by that. Thank you. And likewise, I'm assured by the work that Neil Stevenson's team is doing around commissioning, and that's good to see that we're not just carrying on with business as usual. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. Any more? Nope. I'll just add, I think, in terms of thinking back to kind of previous years, looking at where we are at the end of Q3, big thank you to Jonathan, Bernie and their colleagues, and Fiona and her team for the pile of work that they've done to get us to where we are. I think I said at the Insight session, was it last week? It was last week, wasn't it? It just feels to me, again, thinking back to previous years, the kind of budgeting for the coming year just feels like far more robust process than we've ever had in the past. So I feel more reassured.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. In which case, are we happy to agree the recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. That brings us to 6.2, which is the Fast Track Cities paper. I think it's Lisa. Oh, Lisa's online. Oh, and Sandy's going to come in. I'll give Sandy a chance to get round without having to run and potentially trip over.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to hand over to briefly introduce the paper to our colleagues, Dr. Brawley, if she's able to join us. She's doing clinical work at the moment, and our Lisa Allerton. So, Daniela or Lisa, would you like to just briefly introduce the paper? Thank you.
Yeah, apologies. I'm in Peterhead in an outreach clinic, and I don't have my camera or a mic, so I'm on my phone. So apologies if this cuts off, but Lisa will take over. So yes, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our ongoing work with HIV Fast Track Cities, which, as you may be aware, we have overarching priorities to reduce HIV transmissions, to improve retention and care, both for that individual in terms of increasing quality of life, but also reducing ongoing transmissions, with also specific work around stigma. Within Grampian, we do have ongoing transmissions and transfers into the area as per our report. We meet on a local basis with regards to our local partners and are also part of the Fast Track Cities National Consortium for Scotland, which is led by Waverley Care. Just the main areas of the report to highlight in terms of the work that the Fast Track Cities group has been doing. We've been involved in a pilot looking at HIV preventative medication within primary care, which is the first in Scotland and the second in the UK, and the only pilot to involve a rural area. We've also been involved in opt-out emergency bloodborne virus testing within the ED emergency department, which you might have been aware of, which again is the first in Scotland. We've also looked at doing specific testing and awareness work with groups that are increased risk, and also have some focus on stigma, as well as been involved in the Positive Voices study, which is due to start later this year, which is focusing on people living with HIV's care experience and to feed that back into how we can improve services. I'll pass on to Lisa if she wants to add anything else, and then happy to take any questions.
Yeah, no, nothing specific to add, Daniela. It's just to say thank you very much to IGB for the opportunity to come and present this work again. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions? Martin?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is a very welcome report. It's good to see. It reflects an enormous amount of localised work and activities from our Positive Voice Grampian, Grampian Sexual Health Services and so forth. It's a question around the 95 target. So, have we achieved the three 95% fully? And if so, what next? What would be a suitable further next step to that would help?
Yes, sorry, just apologies. Can you hear me okay? So
yeah.
Yes, we have achieved that. It is a number which sometimes will vary, because obviously if we've newly diagnosed people, that might, until they become undetectable in their own treatment, and that number can vary slightly, but we are generally always over 95. I suppose we'll never get to 100% all the time because of that variability and new diagnoses coming into the area, people starting on treatment, people changing treatment because of issues. So, but I think if we can get as close to 100% as possible, and if we can contribute to Scotland-wide aims to reduce or to eliminate HIV transmission locally, I think then that would be generally our overarching aims.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I mean, as the report mentions, there's always work to to highlight, raise awareness of the services available, testing and so forth. So any further encouragement there, I think would be welcome. And obviously all of this work and the debate around it helps to reduce the stigma problem, which is the other psychological aspect of it. So yeah, it's all good. Thank you.
Okay, I think I saw David's hand fractionally before I saw Mark's hand, and then Lee's hand.
Thank you, Chair. I just, forgive me, but I wanted to make a comment, and I wanted to congratulate the team on the work. I think it's phenomenal. Okay, it's not, the data are not at 100%, but the successes that the team are reporting here are phenomenal. And the context, if I may indulge myself for a moment, is that in June 1990, I went to work in Northern California on an AIDS project, and in June 1992, ended up in San Francisco and worked for 6 years on HIV in the absolute heart of really it was a pandemic. We talk about an epidemic, but it was a pandemic, but the heart of the epidemic in San Francisco. And we had AIDS patients coming into the lab, and they were in a terrible state, many of them. It was literally a death sentence in those days. And I just was reflecting that, okay, it's 30 years ago or more, but in the space of my career, and nothing to do with me, by the way, but in the space of my career, I've seen this transition from becoming infected with HIV to be a death sentence to now being able to prevent transmission therapeutically and to give post-exposure prophylaxis. It's just an amazing achievement, and I wanted to thank the team for the pioneering work they've done in the region. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Mark, next.
Thanks very much, Chair. I think I'd like to associate myself with David's comments there. I think that I've worked in healthcare for a long, long time, and I think that the transformation in HIV health care is phenomenal, I think, since the time I started. I think stigma, however, is still very rife, and I think we need to work really hard on that. I think we do, and I think that's commendable to the team. I suppose one of the more worrying statistics is the heterosexual transmission rates now exceeding the other group of GPMSM, and it has done for the last 3 years, and whether or not we need to have a look at how we promote that message about that, because I think it sometimes could be lost a little bit, but it's just a comment more than anything else. I wondered if Daniela was any work on going with that, or Sam, you could give me some more information around that. Thank you.
Daniela?
Yeah, I 100% agree, and that's why we're trying to do a lot of work around opt-out testing. So it's not about traditional risk factors or perceived risk factors. It's just about symptoms or the need to test, because it's like a medical condition that you would check for like anything else. And that's why we're also really keen to try and progress our primary care, because we know from data that GBMSM feel comfortable to come to sexual health services for PrEP and for testing, but often heterosexual groups don't, particularly women who are very underrepresented with regards to PrEP uptake. And that's why we're really keen to try and expand that within primary care, because we know from some data that, and certainly from some of the focus group work that we've done as well, is that that's where women want to present, and that's potentially where heterosexual men will also present, either for prevention or for testing. So yeah, completely agree with regards to the work that we need to do around that.
Thanks, I think we should commend the work done in ED department, taking this forward first in the country. I think that we're doing that, and I think it was a really good initiative, and should watch the results of that coming through. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent, great. Lee?
Thank you, Chair. My question was quite similar. I would like to start with commend the hard work of the team as well. I know how passionate they are in reducing instances of HIV and also reducing the stigma, and I know how hard they work with that. And also, yeah, back to the heterosexual and this the idea of the risk of going abroad and potentially with young women, with the increase in apps and dating apps and things, and potentially young people, or it can happen to like older women as well, of meeting someone and ending up in this sort of situation. And I was wondering if there's any way, because that's becoming increasingly common that you hear about. I was wondering if there's any way of trying to maybe target that sort of message to, because I noticed in the awareness campaigns, there's not really an awful lot about the risk with travel.
Lisa, can you maybe comment on that in terms of the work? Try again. Sorry, Lisa or Daniela, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you very much for your comments there. So absolutely, I think it's about acknowledging that some people may well be more at risk than other groups. Historically, we've done quite a lot of work around travel risks, particularly as colleagues that work in oil and gas travel to countries where prevalence is higher. So we have done some of that. Like Daniela says, there's lots of information and resources, and it's trying to reduce that stigma. So making sure that some of our targeted campaigns don't increase the stigma, I guess, in populations. But we do work very closely with our health and work team in public health to get those key messages across to organisations, for example, working with the Chamber of Commerce, etc. So we try and do that, I guess, in terms of the majority of risks from travel and health, so not just focusing on the HIV, but lots of other communicable diseases that have a travel risk associated with them as well.
Okay. Now, Councillor Malik had a proposed amendment here.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a very constructive and sensible suggestion. So I'd be more than happy to take it on board without going to a vote. But would you like to sort of speak to it a bit?
Yes, I think I commend this report and endorse the continuation of the hard work and work. This is a classic case of intervention and prevention in action where we are saving the NHS considerable amount of money. Not to say that we are helping stop disease without stigmatizing individuals. It is great report. I don't know if any of you have ever met Richard Angels or have seen any of his work. I do know him, and I know he works in Glasgow and Edinburgh, but I'm not sure if his work in Aberdeen. And that's why I moved my amendment that we should invite him and we should get his expertise here, because he's doing a great job, and he scored £20 million from UK government for HIV, which is a big achievement. And I think that it is all I require to say, and I would hope you could support my amendment and invite him here in Aberdeen. Thank you.
Martin?
Yes, thank you. I mean, I'm very conscious that the Terence Higgins Trust has got a presence in Aberdeen, but we have other community-oriented organisations which are more active, more grassroots-based, and which have led on the Fast Track Cities initiative in Aberdeen. Like as I mentioned previously, our Positive Voice Grampian. I think they would be very worthwhile listening to, because they know our area. They've got more informed, localised knowledge and information. I think that would be very useful for us to have an update on how they have tackled the issue. Led the Fast Tracks City initiative on behalf of our local community, and very successfully, because as we've heard, exceeding the 95% targets. I think that would be useful, because we want to know. I mean, we're slightly parochial. We want to know what's happening, and they could provide advice guidance and so forth on what we could do next, because we want to exceed those targets.
Okay, I'm wondering if we can combine the two ideas and maybe have an insight session at some point later in the year, in which we invite Richard Angel and also some of the groups working locally. Would folk be happy with that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if we can... Oh, sorry.
No.
Yeah, if we can...
if that's feasible, that's realistic.
Let's look into it. It seems like a good idea. So if we can amend the recommendation to take that on board, if we could also amend the recommendation to commend the work of the team. I think I've heard the word commend several times in this discussion. So if we could do that, I think that would be quite helpful as well. And say it goes back to what we said at the conference. It never does any harm to say thank you and well done. So if people are happy with that,
agreed.
Grand. Okay. Excellent. That then takes us to 5.1. I said we'd break after 90 minutes, but we're at 85 minutes. So I'm thinking let's have a 10-minute break now, so that we don't have a 2-minute bit on the carer strategy and then have to break in the middle, or have to go into Fergie time. So yeah, if we could take a break now and come back at 25 to 2. Folk are happy with that?
25 to 2. Fantastic.
I used to work in a bank. I'm not very good with numbers.